Hello, good day to you wherever you are. My name is Emmanuel Amechi Mark. I'm doing this special video today to mark the Happy Children's Day celebration of our children, today being the 27th of May 2021. In Nigeria, we always celebrate Children's Day on May 27th. However, I'm going to be discussing a very important topic following a previous video I did and I posted on my YouTube channel titled Why We Are Where We Are Now as a Nation. If you've not seen that video, please go to my YouTube channel, click on it and view it. I'm sure you will like it. So this video is going to be following that one up, and this topic is on children. I have titled it From Cradle to Where. From cradle to where. The importance of this topic is not just for children, but to every one of us as Nigerians, every one of us as individuals residing in or outside Nigeria. So long you have the Nigerian blood flowing inside of you, so long you are a Nigerian, this is very important for you. So I will beg every one of you that is viewing this video right now, please take your time, view and enjoy it, and also share it amongst your friends. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and like my YouTube channel so that at least you have a notification on further information and videos that I will be doing in time to come. So, talking about children on this special Children's Day, on the title From Cradle to Where. Why is it so important to you? Why do you need to hear or discuss about children? How does it relate to Nigeria? I'll share this with you as we go on. First and foremost, every one of us at one point in time, you and me, everyone in Nigeria, everyone all over the world, we were once children. I was once a child. You were once a child. All the presidents in Nigeria, all those in the House of Senate, all governors, all bandits, all Boko Haram members, all ritual killers, all armed robbers in the highways, in the nooks and crannies of our cities, wreaking havoc everywhere. Every one of us, we were once children at one time or another. How did we move from the cradle where we were weaned, breastfed, taken care of, and becoming either good use to the society or huge menace to our society, is why it's so important to talk about it. And while I go on, as I go on, let me say this to you. Any nation that directly or indirectly overlooks the training and upbringing of the children within that society has directly or indirectly destroyed the future of that society or that nation. Let me say it again. Any nation that directly or indirectly overlooks the upbringing of the children within the society, that does not take into cognizance how the children within the society are raised, what they eventually turn out to, they have indirectly destroyed the future of that nation. And looking at why we are where we are now as a nation, this may just be answering some of the questions on that topic. So please follow me gradually as we look at two major aspects, two major concepts, as we are looking at how children grow from cradle to whatever they have come to become now. Now, quickly, let's look at this. You must have heard of the replacement theory. The replacement theory tries to explain that virtually everything that exists under the auspices of replacement. In other words, the trees we see today are not the trees that were there as at 100, 200, 500 years ago, or since the beginning of time. A tree grows fruits, and the fruit has seeds inside of it, and then the seeds are spread in different places, and those seeds also grow. That tree eventually dies or withers away, and then but the tree has actually produced seeds through fruits, and then the moment those seeds are spread, they grow. About 10, 20 different seeds have replaced the mother seed or the mother tree. The same thing happens. Like I used to have great grandfather. I did not just fall from heaven. I have great grandfather. My great grandfather gave birth to my great grandfather. My great grandfather gave birth to my grandfather. My grandfather gave birth to my father. My father gave birth to me. I have given birth to other children. And what has happened is my father is no more, my great grandfather is no more, my grandfather is no more, but I have replaced them, because you can trace my lineage, to them. I have replaced them. I am a replacement now of my great grandfather or ancestors. Now, if you look at cars that are produced, if you look at, for instance, take Toyota company, for instance, the cars that they are producing now were not the cars they were producing before, but probably they have the same names. Like if you take time to Google Toyota Camry from inception till now, you'll see how the cars have evolved, each one being developed or manufactured to replace the previous. Toyota Corolla, the same thing. Lexus, the same thing. Mercedes-Benz, the same thing. Ford, the same thing. So life generally has actually evolved under the pivot of replacement. Nigeria, for instance, became a nation in the year 1914 when Lord Frederick Lugard amalgamated the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate. Now, if you were alive at that time, between that time and now, it should be about 100 and let's say 100 and some years. I think 1914 and 2014 is around 100 years. Between 2014 and 2021 is around 7 years. So you should be about 107 years if you were 1 year old as at 1914. That tells you that perhaps the number of people who actually witnessed, who were grown up, who actually witnessed the amalgamation may not be anywhere in Nigeria now. They must have died. If there should be anyone still alive, then the person should be about 130-something years. About this time, they may not be more than 1, 2, 3, or 4 in Nigeria now, as we speak. This means that quite a number of, that is everyone now living in Nigeria, are just replacements to those persons who actually witnessed the amalgamation of Nigeria. So we have just been replacing ourselves. And further to that, just as we are alive today, we are the ones now old enough to run the activities and affairs of the nation. A time will come, we will pass away, we will die, we will grow old and become actually insignificant, perhaps. The children that we have given birth to will be the ones to fit into roles of society. Our children, some of them will become presidents, some of them will become governors, some will become doctors, some will become lawyers, some will become musicians, some will become wonderful artists, some will become movie stars. They will replace. That's the theory of replacement. They will eventually replace the passing set or batch of people within the time. And that tells you that if they are not well trained, if they are not well nurtured, if they are not well brought up, then they will become deviants of society. No well-trained child turns out to become bandits. No well-trained child by a well-trained mother and father turns out to become a deviant of society, turns out to become a ritual killer, turns out to become a serial killer, an armed robber, a killer, whatsoever deviant you will think of. No well-trained child turns out to be that way. So if you understand the theory of replacement, you will see the reason why this discussion is very important when we're talking about from cradle to where. How do these children grow up to become what they have turned out to be? Now, we will not be taking too many, we won't be dwelling too much on those who have turned out to be good or positive to society. We will be looking at how did a lot of people turn out to be deviants, turn out to be useless, turn out to be menace to our society. How did they turn out to be menace of our society? So I'll be looking at it in two major concepts. And the first concept we'll be looking at is the concept of value. The concept of value. And the second concept we'll be looking at is the concept of right and wrong. So please follow me quickly. Let's look at the concept of value. There are so many things that are related to children we may not touch upon now, but just this one is to target why we are where we are now as a nation. So as I'm talking about children, on this Children's Day, we are particular on our nation, Nigeria, why we are where we are now as a nation. Now, how does the concept of value relate to raising a child and where we are now as a nation? Every human being develops under the circumference of value. Now, this means that every individual, every child, as the child is growing, he grows up under the value. He perceives life through the value that he or she is seeing within the society, from the home to all the different places that the child goes through. Now, this is what I mean. If a society places value on education, for instance, the child has no option but to grow up valuing education. If a society places value on human life, the child inadvertently grows up to also value life. It is the value placed on the society. It is whatever the society values that the child eventually grows up with. Whatsoever the value chain, whatsoever the values, the volume of values may be, the child will begin to inculcate these values into him or herself. If a parent is doing a job that relates to maybe farming and all that, the early stages of the child will begin to value farming. If it's on animal husbandry, the same thing follows. If it's on music, the same thing follows. So the child indirectly, even without knowing, subconsciously, the child begins to value whatsoever the parents, or if the parents are not there, whoever the child looks up to. This is where it's very important. Whoever the child looks up to, he now begins to value, places value on whatsoever that person tells him or her, whatsoever that person teaches him or her, whatsoever that person shows or exposes him or her to. The child begins to place value on it, and indirectly, that is how the child begins to place judgment on what is right or what is wrong. What is right or what is wrong? Let me give you a typical example. In the 90s, in the early 90s, I can remember very well, for those of us who probably are mature at the time, although I was a bit of a child, but at least I had sense. There was this wonderful event that took place in the 90s, talking about the Otokoto 6. Otokoto 6, you can Google it. It had to do with some group of persons that were caught who were doing ritual killing. And all that. Had this hotel where they deceive some persons into and then catch them and then kill them for rituals. That's the story. And then they were caught. There were about 6 of them. They prosecuted them and sentenced them to death by firing squad. A lot of persons have been hearing the stories of Otokoto and all that. A lot of people have been disappearing. So when they heard that these are the people behind the whole thing, they were happy, that they were caught, apprehended, and then they were prosecuted. and they were sentenced to death by firing squad. And they told them the place. I wasn't there in Anambra State, but I read the story on newspaper, and now the newspaper carried it that for instance, let's say the firing, the execution was to be around 8 o'clock. It said about 7 o'clock, the whole field, the whole venue was filled up with people who want to witness their death. And then as at the time, they drove the Black Maria to the place where they are to be executed, and like fire, all of them, 6 of them came out and they were singing. I saw pictures of them. They were raising their hands. These were people who were seen as killers before, and then they were raising their hands. They were saying, "One glorious morning I will meet my Lord and Savior." And so they were singing. They were singing a religious Christian song as they were marching to their firing squad position. And then when they tied them to the stake, tied every one of them to the stake, the writer said all of a sudden the whole atmosphere of joy turned into tears. People started crying for no reason. They were crying. They were literally crying. And the writer, I remember he noted, he said, if these persons, majority of these persons viewing, these witnesses viewing them, were to be asked, do you still want these 6 people to be killed? He said quite a number of them, from the way they were crying, they would have said no, they should spare their lives. What do I mean? At that time, value was placed on life. Life had a lot of value. Whether the life of the rich or the poor, whether the life of the criminal or the innocent person, life was just valued. Now, come to today. Today, you just hear that someone steals maybe biro or fish from the market. The next time you see, people throw tire on the person and light the person. And in the process of the person struggling to die, you see people holding camera, phone camera, to video someone that's dying, that's literally burning to death. People are videoing, people are recording. Some people will have an accident, and instead of going over to save these persons, someone would prefer to be the first to put it on social media. The person will be recording instead of making effort to save that person's life. I've watched different videos of someone who's struggling to survive, and just the only one person who would have saved that person, the person is holding a video camera to record the event. What does that tell you? The value of life has drastically reduced in the process of time as we live in Nigeria. The value that people placed on life has drastically reduced. There was a time when education was highly valued in Nigeria. A lot of people struggle, make all kinds of effort to go to school, because they know when they go to school and come out of the school from university and all that, they will get a good job and then they will live fine. Things were simple. Life was just simple. You go to school, you graduate, you get a job, you get married, you live fine. There was a time like that in Nigeria. And then all of a sudden, it got to a point where people can say that school is a scam. That tells you that the value for education, as we have seen from different places, as we have seen from the response of government, as we have seen from policies being made relating to education, the value of education has drastically reduced. Nobody today, a lot of persons don't want to go to school. A lot of children don't want to go to school. If you ask them now, they will tell you clearly that they have nothing, virtually nothing to gain from school. Our teachers are quack teachers. Our lecturers are useless. Our school education is completely nothing, simply because value is not placed on it. Wherever the heart of a man is, that's what the Holy Book says. It said, wherever the treasure of a man is, there will his heart be. If our value is placed on education, then we will do so much more to upgrade our education, not just for us, but for our children who are to replace us. Now, if the value of education is gone, how do you think the people who are to replace us, how do you think they will be? What do you think they will be like? That's a question for another day. Still on value, I remember one of my favorite actors, Jackie Chan, Chinese actor. At one time they were interviewing him and he said one of the major values in the Chinese culture is that everyone, becomes successful to the extent where you are able to write a book and own a restaurant. He said that's the major value they place on success. Said for them, what success is for them is that you have come up to a level where you are able to write at least one book and you have been able to own a restaurant. I don't know what that may mean because I'm not Chinese, but according to him, he had to work on this value. He had to channel his life so much so that he believed he had nothing, no matter in spite of the money he had, until he was able to write a book and own a restaurant. Value. That tells you the importance of value placed within the society. That tells you the importance of value placed within the society, such that you are judged, you are rated within that value in the society. But today, Nigeria has no notable or useful value. We value nothing. We value virtually nothing. Our values are placed on things that are irrelevant or things that do not move our nation forward. And every society must strive upon whatever it values. It is whatever the nation values that becomes what people, pursue after. Today, I can tell you clearly that we value other dubious means of making money than education, than getting a job. Today, the youths of today in Nigeria want to make money, but not through education, not through positive means. Quite a number of them want to steal. Quite a number of them want to do rituals. They are doing rituals now. I remember the story just recently of a young guy who is still working freely today, who actually killed a young girl. I think her name is Ini something or so. That's her name. The young guy, about 21 years old, killed another girl, a girl of about the same age or maybe a little younger, and had no remorse, had no fear. That young boy was once a child, grew up. So the question you'll be asking yourself, or we'll be asking ourselves, is how did that young boy of 21-year-old grow up to become a killer? What turned the child from the cradle to a killer? I also remember a time ago, a short video was given by these insurgents, Boko Haram. A young guy was to be shot, and the person behind the gun, the person holding the gun to shoot the guy, was nothing less than 10 years, nothing more than 10 years old. A 10-year-old boy was holding a gun, pointed it at the victim, and shot him twice. I was shocked because that was just a child. How did that child develop from the cradle to holding a gun at age 10, pointing it at a human being far older than him, didn't feel anything, and shot the person to death? I remember a documentary I watched some time ago about Cameroon and also Sierra Leone, of how little children were used to machete old people and shoot them to death. Little children of 10, 11 years. They were interviewing these children, and you hear the children, you hear them saying, I don't kill many people, I don't kill many people, I don't kill many people, I don't cut many people's hand. You'll be amazed at these children, how they were influenced with the concept of wrong values And the children developed wrong concepts of right and wrong. And they were perceiving that what they were doing was right. You can't tell them that what they were doing was wrong because they don't know what is wrong. They don't know what is right. It is what you tell them that is right. It's what you tell them that is wrong that they tend to believe. And these children go about killing people. Now, if these children grew up to become 20, 21, 30, and 40, what do you think they will become? President of the nation? If they eventually become president of the nation, what do you think are the values they will put forward? What do you think are the things they will value? What do you think are the things they will devalue? This gives us a cause of concern of the kind of people we have today in our nation. Now let's quickly move away from value. Let's look at the concept of right and wrong. Today, I can tell you clearly, with deep sadness to my heart, that Nigeria as a nation, the individuals in Nigeria as a nation, or let me say majority of people we have as individuals, citizens in this nation, don't know the difference between right and wrong. They don't even know what we can categorize as right. They don't even know what we can categorize as wrong. And these were once children who went through school, grew up to become something in the nation. They don't know what is right. They don't know whether it is right to value human life. They don't know whether it is right to help your neighbor. They don't know whether it is right to steal. They don't know whether it is right to kill. All they know is that they find themselves doing whatever they are doing, and they don't want to be. They are not judgmental of themselves. They don't have the conscience to judge their rightness or their wrongness, because of the fact that we have lost it somewhere, that we cannot even know what is right or wrong. Take for instance the children. I gave example of the children in Cameroon, the children in Sierra Leone, the children in the north, the children in the south. How these ones turn out to become deviants, ritual killers. They don't know whether what they are doing is right or wrong. They cannot tell. So, to answer the question of why we are where we are as a nation, I can say that much of it also has to do with the kind of value we have now placed in our society, what we now assume to be right and wrong as against what is socially and morally acceptable globally. Our value system in Nigeria has disoriented every one of us. Our value system is wrong. We have a very, very bad value system. We are now in a system where we celebrate the wrong and evil things that people do, maybe because we directly benefit from it, at the detriment of citizens. You see a public servant openly siphon and embezzle public funds, and people will still be celebrating the person. Someone you know to be an armed robber, you invite the person to your party because the person will spray you some amount of money. You celebrate the person. Someone you know does not make money through meaningful sources, through credible and legal sources. You still won't mind, you still won't bother simply because you are benefiting from the person. These are the values we place in our society that is crippling our nation today. Now that tells you that if we must envisage a change in Nigeria, we must now begin to look back at the kind of value we place in our society. We must now begin to look back at what we call right in our society. We must now begin to look back at what we assume to be wrong. What are the things we tend to call right? What are the things we tend to call wrong? What are the things we place value on? What value are we placing on our educational system? What value are we placing on our moral system? What value are we placing on our success strategy? How do we define success? How do we define redefine the process of achieving success. These things are what will help us begin to restructure our society. Because when we talk about restructuring Nigeria, believe you me, it's not just about restructuring the system, perhaps per se, the government system, restructuring the educational system, but we must also restructure the value system. We must also restructure the system of value we place on things in our nation. When we begin to do this, particularly from the cradle stage, then we will now begin to expect wonderful youths that will become reasonable to our society. When we begin to restructure what value we place on education. Like I said initially, today we have people who you cannot be proud to call them teachers, because they don't even know what teaching is all about. They don't even know the efficacy, the importance of teaching to society. They only want to teach simply because they believe as lecturers, as they are teaching, they will call their students to give them money in order to pass their exams, and they will collect money from these students, pass them even if they never read, and don't care about the people they are churning out as graduates. So today, because of the kind of teachers and lecturers we have graduates who don't even know what they went to school to study. More of them are coming out. So we must begin to place value on our society, begin to restructure the kind of value we place on our society, and then begin to redefine what we call right and wrong. And lastly, I will say this. Parents, we must begin to deliberately and purposefully raise our children in the best way we can. Our children are to replace us tomorrow. And if we are good people and we raise bad children, then we are not actually good people, because our children are our results. They are our success. Spend a little more of your time, energy, and resources to train your children and ensure that they become good people of society, so that we will not be having the challenge of when we want to put people to take roles in society like governorship, like governors, like president, like all that. We will not be having the challenge, because when we have too many bad persons, then bad people will enter into society, enter into roles in society. Bad people will rule us, bad people will govern us, bad people will lead us. And if we are led by bad people, we will have bad results in our nation. So, as a tribute to Children's Day, I want to speak to everyone in Nigeria. I want to implore every one of us in Nigeria. We need change as much as we can, and from anywhere we can. And if we take time to look into this aspect of value and the concept of right and wrong, then by God's grace, we'll begin to work out modalities towards changing our nation. My name once again is Mark Emmanuel Amechi, and I am saying Happy Children's Day to every child in Nigeria. I believe in you. I believe in the future of Nigeria, and I believe in us having a great nation when we begin to work towards that deliberately. Thank you very much, and God bless you.